Good evening, Super League fans across the world. We're just about to go live here. Face melting solo, yes, it was indeed. But I thought that I'd spare your faces, and I'll try and get the co-commentators online instead, so we can be ready for a kickoff. Well, I say 9. It'll be after. You know what it's like. Yeah, give me a couple of seconds. We'll get Fifey and we'll get Mr. Edwards on the line as well, and we'll crack on from there. Technical difficulties have been overcome, and we've got both co-commentators on the line. So, good evening, first of all, to Fifey. Good evening.
Evening, everybody.
And well done on the blog, just in time, and with plenty of talking points. So, thanks very much for that. I hope it wasn't under too much time pressure to get it done.
No, not at all. I enjoyed writing this one. The end of season ones are always good when you've got something to write about, and thanks to the likes of Ben and Russell for joining in as well to add that little bit extra to it. But no, it was a good blog. It's been well received, and I'm happy with the outcome.
Yeah, me too. It was definitely a great read, and always good to see the perspectives. Not to not to criticize the managers, it's great to hear from them as well. But obviously, always nice to get like outside perspectives, to get features and these kind of things that you do really well in the blog as well. So thanks very much for that. Ian, you should be there as well somewhere.
I am here. Yes. Hello. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining, guys. Both of you, of course, not taking part in the in the playoffs. Without going into, sorry for having to remind you. I mean, at least you managed to pick up a little bit of form towards the end of the season. Both of you in various ways. Ian with your away win in the last game against Steven. So yeah, progress made all round. How do you feel, Ian, that the season ended? Was it a bit of an anticlimax for you, or I mean, it's been clear for a short while anyway that you weren't going to make the playoffs, but still, I mean, 8 points behind is no disaster, is it?
Not a disaster. I mean, we all know where my problems lie away from home, so it was nice to finish the season off with an away victory. I think you look at our home form, and it was top 6 form, which just makes the away form even worse. I don't really know what to put it down to, and I probably can't learn too much from the last game of the season because obviously Stephen's team did have 11 changes in it, and his starting 11 were on the beach. So I do have an idea of how we're going to go into next season already. So we'll just have to see if things improve with everyone being a year older and another year of Super League under everyone's belts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously you've been known as a bit of a big spender in the league so far this season. Are we going to see some more investment over the summer in the squad?
It depends if you tell me I've got any pennies left or not.
Well, we'll have to see if you will have
I'll
to.
try.
It'll be the Daniel Levy method, I fear. You have to sell to buy. So we'll see. We'll see.
Everyone's all my outgoings I think are pretty much spoken for bar one. I've got room for one more to come in, but how much I have to spend on that person, I don't know. Probably not very much. With a lot of money being already spent on those guys and Nesta coming in as well. So yeah, not much left.
Oh well, we'll see how it goes next season. Stephen, for you, how do you feel the season ended? I think you went on a bit of a half decent run. Apart from the last two games, you were actually on a one, two, three, four. You were on a 4 game unbeaten with two wins and two draws, and then obviously you had that difficult game against Valen, second to last, and then you sent everyone on holiday and took the L against BTEC. But those last 4 games before that, they must have given you some kind of hope and confidence for next season.
Well, various things happened the back end of the season to give us things to think about. But yeah, obviously losing to Valen in a game where we were very much in it at least um, meant our season was over. It gave me a chance then to make the 11 changes against Big Tech, have a look at a couple of things for next year. Similarly to Ian, I've got 4 confirmed in, 4
Hmm.
going out. Um, there's 1 or 2 places for that last transfer. I'm just trying to obviously get the best or for the right person in one of those positions to make us better. I think we will have a better pound for pound squad next year with what we've got in. Yes, we are obviously losing a couple of key names, but we're bringing in some big names as well and mixing it up a bit because ultimately, when you finish last, you've got to do something to stem the tide, as they say. So hopefully, we've looked at a couple of things tactically, a couple of things personnel, and next year will be a lot better.
Well, fingers crossed anyway, and certainly I would say the last 4 games were a much improved Swindon side compared to some of the performances earlier this season. So we'll see. As we've passed 9 o'clock, I think we're past the sort of official broadcasting time, so we can move on to some of the big news of the day. So as some of the managers may be aware, there has been a pre-match, sorry, pre-end of season announcement with regards to the managers. As we spoke about before, Chris is taking over from Parma at Panathinaikos, but we have more exciting and I don't know what we should call it. They're not sad as such, but obviously the Chotley Cannons manager Tim advised the board about 6-7 weeks ago that he was going to give up at the end of the season. Give up maybe being the wrong word. What's the word for it? He's going to resign at the end of the season, regardless of the outcome. So that's obviously been known by the board for some time. It was made official a couple of days ago to the managers, and as we have also found a replacement now, it's kind of official to everyone, I guess. So we've got Scott Sadler coming in, taking over the reins at the Chotley Cannons. He's been introduced to the rest of the managers, and obviously we wish him well in his in endeavors to get Chotley Cannons into the playoffs next season. I think he has a lot of new ideas that he wants to try out, so it'll be interesting to see. And of course, it's someone coming in brand new to the league. It's not like a Chris who'd kind of co-managed Bolton for half of the season. So it's completely fresh face. So if you see the new Chotley Cannons account out and about, I think currently there's a picture of Mark van Bommel on it, but I'm sure that's all about to change if Ian's got anything to say. So
It's
if you see
changed
him.
already.
Oh, okay. So if you see him out and about, then please give him a follow and retweet his stuff and make him make Scott feel welcome in the league. A Leeds supporter, I believe, in from Hodges' neck of the woods. So he'll be his accent and his liked tweets will be familiar to those who already follow the Ask the Celtic manager's Twitter account. What do you make of Tim? Resigning from the league, expected, unexpected? I mean, he resigned. I think it's he came back in the summer, didn't he? And eventually he'd obviously decided that enough was enough. That's an open question to the panel, by the way. Ian, if you want to go first, or Fifey, either.
Well, I think the thing is with Tim is that he's obviously is in it to win it, isn't he? And if things aren't going his way, then he doesn't like it, which is fair enough. I mean, some of us are in this for various different reasons. We all want to win. We all try our best, but I think some of us take defeat better than others. Some of us have to because we get used to taking defeat quite a bit. And I think he's got form for leaving in the past, so it's probably not a big deal for him to leave again. It's a shame because he knows what he's doing. He's a good manager and he's a good lad and he's a good crack. But I'm sure the new lad will come in and add plenty to the league as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, hopefully. I think he's certainly much in the same way as Palmer. So a big thanks and a lot of respect to both of the outgoing managers. They obviously dealt with it very differently. Palmer made it official. Tim handed in his notice roughly around the same time, but decided to keep it quiet. But both managers have obviously kept it very very professional to the end with full team instructions and no slouching in terms of the discipline when it comes to managing the team. So very positive for both of them. Fifey, what do you make to getting a new another lead supporter onto the manager roster?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had a couple of very brief conversations with him today about a couple of things, and he seems quite eager to get his hands dirty and get involved. So it's nice to have someone coming in with fresh enthusiasm.
Hmm.
Just touching on obviously Tim's departure. To an extent, I agree with what Ian was saying, but also I think it needs to be taken into consideration without going into the specifics that the last 6 to 9 months probably haven't been the best for him personally. So he's probably had other things to consider at the same time. But yeah, he'll be a big miss. But we welcome another Leeds fan on board. And, the good thing is whenever you get anyone who supports Leeds, you get a big following with them.
Hmm. With regards to your own squad, have you had any bits from Scott already on for Ian Hart or Danny Mills or any of these guys?
Hart and Mills names did crop up, but not for that necessarily. I believe that someone who will remain nameless for the time being suggested that I might be willing to offload Costanzo fairly cheaply, which was very quickly rebuffed.
I can't imagine who would have given him that idea. That seems like a strange one, but anyways, he'll soon. I think if he's put Van Bommel on the market, so he'll have a chat with Andreas later on today, and he'll soon find out what the transfer negotiations in the Super League are all about. So I'm sure he'll come around to a to a fair deal on some of your players if you're willing to sell them anyway. Anyway, that was my kind of pre-match announcement. Um, what else? What else? What else? Fifey. Do you wanna go over the team of the season, team of the year, player of the year? Do you have something to share with the masses?
Yeah, I can do, but just before we do, I don't want to lose it on the comments. I see Ryan's trying to engage quite early with a couple of questions for Ian if he doesn't mind answering them.
The problem with my starting 11 and individuals to blame, yes, me. I think I'm probably the individual to blame there. 26 games, I probably used 26 formations, 26 different tactics and instructions. Nothing was consistent enough. The only argument I've got against my team is that they're a very young team. I can't have any arguments about the quality of them and the effort that they put in. They give me everything, but probably down to the manager, I'd have to say.
Hmm. And what about Emerson? What are your plans for that?
Emerson, without giving too much away, I am going to go back to a consistent formation. I have something in mind, and I know exactly where Emerson is going to play. To ruin Emerson, yeah. I'm not going to rise to that one, but he's going to play. He's an MC, and he's going to play MC. He's not going to play DMC. He's not going to play anywhere except slap bang in the middle of my team.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear that you've got the plans for that already laid out. Sorry, thanks for pointing that out, Fivey. That was a good talking point. You're back to the question I originally had for you. You mentioned something about the team of the year. Has there been controversy or anything like that, or was it fairly straightforward? I think maybe a lot of people were a bit surprised to see Ryan Giggs in there, although he has done really well.
Yeah, the team of the year in the blog. To be fair, now that we've done it a little while, the panel has sort of come to a way of working where it's quite quick to pick the players. But Ryan Giggs is the one where there was a bit of controversy. He was in, then he was out, and then at the last minute he was put in again. It was all to do with who the strikers were going to be,
Hmm.
and Ian was very passionate that Ryan Giggs was put in, so we agreed. It was basically to do with Morientes, obviously one of the top scorers in the league, and did he deserve a place or not? But we went with Giggs in the end, and yeah, I think the team is a deserving team that was picked. But the one thing we couldn't agree on was the Player of the Year.
Right.
We all picked a different one, and then tried to do it in a rating system, and managed to give them all the same average based on that rating system. So after the broadcast, we're going to put it out to the public vote whether the Player of the Year is Cafu, Barry Ferguson, or Robbie Keane.
Right. Okay. Well, that's an interesting one. I think obviously I can understand the reason behind all of them. Yeah, that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see Cafu, Robbie Keane, and Barry Ferguson.
Yeah, so I opted for Barry. I think Ian opted for Robbie, and then obviously Cafu. And then we said we put them 1, 2, and 3, and we all put them in different orders, which meant they all got the same average. I think I put it Barry, Cafu, and then Robbie third, and then obviously everyone mixed around. So we're going to put it out to the public vote after the broadcast.
Right. Okay. We'll have a look. I can maybe yeah. If you want to put it out to the public vote, I'll share screenshots of the players and their performances and the averages and everything. If people want to have a look at them and see that to help them make up their minds. So yeah, that sounds like a good way to do it. Good way to do it.
What I do like is particularly with team of the year more so than any of the team of the weeks that we've done. It's really got people angry with who haven't made it.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, and I think Kieran Kieran is a little bit a team of the year is a sham, the panel is a sham, so clearly that's been a bit of an issue. And some people mentioned that you're a little bit muffled, so I don't know if you need to stick the microphone close to your mouth or something like that, Fifey, but we'll see. But yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I can understand if you put a full season into it. There's 26 games in it. How many players do we have? 300 and something, 40, 60, whatever it is, and most of them have gotten a fair number of games. So of course there's going to be good performances and bad performances, and people are going to disagree because they're going to have their own favorites. But I think it looked reasonable, to be honest. I mean, we'll see come the end of the season. Obviously the game generates a team of the year as well, and we can see how far the two were apart. If anyone's interested in that, obviously. Ian, any of your team that you thought could have been contenders for the team of the year?
No.
Short and sweet. That's
maybe Buffon.
Buffon had
a second keeper.
Decent second half to the season. Decent second half, isn't it? So yeah, no well. Well, that's going to be interesting to say the least. But nevertheless, let's move on to the action that we've got tonight. We've got Churchtown Massive up against Midlothian. We've got Panathinaikos against Astor. Obviously, these are the teams that finished third to sixth at the end of the regular season, as we can see it here. In the slightly cryptical and convoluted playoff system that they have here in Australia. So this is the elimination playoffs, and these guys will play each other home and away. Valen and Bolton will play each other home and away. The winner of these third to sixth games, they will play each other, and then the winner of that, I think, plays the loser of Valen against Bolton, and the winner of that game then plays the winner of Valen and Bolton in the final. I think that's how it works. That will make no sense to anyone because I lost it halfway through. Either way, we will just take them, and hopefully we'll be able to broadcast all of the games during this week. And obviously, as I said, we're kicking off with tonight's action with Churchtown against Midlothian and Panathinaikos against Astor. Fifey, if I can come to you first with regards to the first game that we've got up tonight, Churchtown against Midlothian. Anything about what's your observations about the Churchtown and how they've gone about their season? Anything that stood out for you, or anything that you think Kieran has done particularly well, or any observations in general around Churchtown and their season?
Well, I mean, obviously in the blog I said that they were my tip to win it. I think they're banging form, both offensively and defensively. I think that their attacking options are as good, if not better, than just about everyone's in the league. As I said, Barry Ferguson's my player of the season, and the reason for that is his consistency. He's Was he leading the way in the assist charts, or if not, he was right up there. But
Uh,
yeah, I
I, I
believe
I think so. I
that they
mean,
are.
he's well out in front. I think combined with the fact that he's also leading, where was it? Goals from indirect free kicks. I mean, he's a driver behind this. The fact that Churchtown have that and that they have that, yeah, they are the league leaders in goals from corners and indirect free kicks, and Barry Ferguson is the league leader in assist. There's a definite connection there. So yeah, definitely, he's definitely been important for them.
But yes, I firmly. It's a shame the way the league finished because I would have liked the Midlothian to progress as well, particularly in his first season. But I just think Churchtown will have too much for them over 2 legs.
Yeah. Ian, what do you make of Midlothian's season? I mean, they newcomers to the league, and they just managed to squeeze in right at the death.
Yeah, but Ian's done a cracking job, hasn't he? Really, he's had his low points during the season. He's always got through them. He's come under a bit of fire for playing certain players in what some people would consider the wrong position, and he's got results from it. And I think he showed absolute balls of steel last day of the season to come up with a formation that nobody expected, and it did the job. I mean, it might have been a team full of sevens and eights, but it won the game. It did what he set them out to do. So you can't knock Ian at all. And on a side note as well, his contribution to the league, as well as his team, as well as his match day and his games has been great.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah,
guaranteed a bit of an essay in the blog from Ian, aren't you? So he's always very good at contributing from that respect. What do you think about his chances tonight?
Well, I mean, I'm only second guessing him here, but I would be surprised if he doesn't continue the same setup that he did in the last match and hope to contain
Hmm.
Churchtown if he can. I hate playing Churchtown. I think anytime you play them home or away, I always just feel like it's an absolute certainty you're going to get beat. They're just so solid all over the pitch. They create so much, and the ball just flies in the back of the net so regularly.
Yeah, I mean that's perhaps one of the talking points for this evening. If we look at the past meetings, Midlothian I think are the only side to have a positive record against Churchtown this season. So they beat
Wow.
them 1-0 at home, and they drew 1-1 away. Not that I mean it was back in January and back in October, so there's obviously some time you know gone past or since those games. But yeah, two very very close games. Fifield, do you recall any of any of these games? I mean, I think we can obviously bring them up if we need to. Midlothian and Churchtown, these two fixtures, very close between the two teams.
they were very close. But the one thing I would say, obviously, I mentioned a minute ago about Churchtown's attacking qualities. The reason Midlothian are where they are, and I mentioned it in our private group chat earlier, you can't fluke it over 26 games. When you've got, okay, it's not been his best season personally, but when you've got players like Mpenza who can turn it on the big occasion, you always stand a chance. And it doesn't necessarily surprise me that Midlothian have a decent record against Churchtown because they've probably got decent records against most teams, hence why they're in the top six.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, Mpensa, I mean, he scored in the first game there where they won, and Kessman got the goal in the other one. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops tonight. And it is, of course, our first game of the evening. We're gonna as a as a trial we're gonna do that. So this is the tactics that Churchtown have gone with this evening. I hope I've done it. Well, he said it's unchanged, so I can't really have screwed it up that much. Sylvester seems to have taken that defensive place over Maldini, which is perhaps the only real surprise in the defense. We've still got Welsh on the wing as the chap who normally plays as injured. I forget. I forget who these people are sometimes, but yeah, a little bit of a defensive one for Churchtown. Ian, do you think that's a response to the formation that Midlothian put out last weekend, that Churchtown are not going to go back to their all-out attack?
Well, it's not an unfamiliar setup for Churchtown. It's something it's a formation he plays quite regularly. He can do that because he's got a brilliant MC in the middle of the team. I think where I think he probably could push it a little bit is he has John Welsh down the right hand side, and I think he was obviously getting some joy with Exeter Berea before Exeter Berea left. I just think he could play a more attacking player in Welsh's position. I think forward right centres can play that position quite well. I think he could have probably put Mackay in there instead of Welsh and maybe eked another goal out of the match. But I'm not gonna second guess Kieran. He's in the playoffs and I'm not.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think Welch has done John Welch has done well for him. I mean, he's only 18, but he's got a 775 average. He's just eights. He's been very solid, and obviously a great utility player, being able to play across the back there. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Anyone else? Who would you say? I mean, apart from Barry Ferguson, obviously, who probably, I think, in all fairness, I mean, I know I'm impartial or whatever, but he's got to be player of the season, hasn't he? With 7 goals and 16 assists.
He's also rather worryingly for everyone else. He's got Van Nistelrooy firing as well, hasn't he? A couple of goals in the last match. Van Nistelrooy's been criticised sometimes for not being a guy who can do it anywhere other than Man United, and he's maybe not a top Super League striker. But I think Kieran's proved that that's not necessarily the case. And he's come good at the right time.
Yeah, he's gone 8-8-9-9 in the last four. So definitely someone who's on form. Fife Midlothian. Ian sticking to his tactic from last week.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I think to it really. If I can just very briefly just touch on Churchtown again. Obviously, we've said a lot about Barry Ferguson, but Edgar Davids has done an incredible job this year generally, and he's been the difference when people like, obviously we had the big fuss at the start about Vieira, who hasn't done it quite to the level of Davids, and I think that's one of the main differences.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at this Midlothian team, although I'm personally not sure the tactics, I'm obviously not going to criticise because, like Ian said, he's in the playoffs and I'm not. What I do like is Eric Addo. I'm a big fan. I like Kevin Hoffland. I think Gattuso is going to be crucial. And as I said before, Mpenza is going to be the key to any success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, there's a couple of various opinions in the comments. Low scoring, 1-1, 2-0, and we'll obviously see how things unfold tonight.
I did notice.
Sorry.
The playoffs, you're allowed the extra sub to what you're allowed in the league season.
Mm-hmm.
Churchtown seem to have gone very, very attacking with theirs, and Midlothian have gone fairly defensive with theirs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's 3 attacking players, one defender and a goalkeeper for Churchtown, and Midlothian have, I mean, Kjellstrom, I guess, is an attacker to some extent, Van der Vaart, midfielder. Yeah, so
striker on bench at all for Midlothian.
I don't think they have any strikers. I mean, they do have back who can go up there and play. Kuhl has played up there earlier this season as well, so they're not completely without options. But yeah, you're right. It's a more defensive setup. Your prediction, if you were to put your head on the block, or if you're a gambling man, who would you go for here?
As I said, I just think Churchtown will be too much for them over 2 legs. I'm going to say 3-1.
Mm-hmm. And Ian, who do you think is going to run away with this one, or do you think no one's going to run anywhere?
I think it's kind of hard to disagree with Fifey there. I think I would expect the game to be played in Midlothian's half for most of the match. So if Churchtown can put the ball in the back of the net, then yeah, I'm thinking 2 or 3-0 perhaps.
Well, it'll be interesting, and interested to hear your opinion during the game. As you've perhaps noticed, we've changed the commentary speed to fast on Alf's request, so we'll see how it goes. And I think with all three of us, we can perhaps talk through the game. If it's a little bit slow, then and super defensive, we might have to speak it up. But we'll kick this one off and see how it goes. So yeah, in the comments, I think Andreas says 2-0, Alf says 1-1. You guys have had your say, so we'll kick it off and see how it goes. Um, Nothing in the first 4 minutes, 5 minutes. This feels so strange. Oof, that is a dream start for Midlothian. Harry Kewell with the early goal on 5 minutes there. Surprised?
Well, that's what you get for asking two basement battlers to make predictions about the playoffs, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I mean it was I mean the tactic looked strong in the first half last week when they played against Asta. Although it did look, was it Asta? And they looked a little bit as if they were. Who did they play last week? Was it Asta? Is that my imagination? It was.
There was the 2 penalties.
Yeah, because Lehman got sent off, wasn't he? And I think in the second half, it looked as if they were kind of losing it. Then Asta had the penalty, and it was only because they got that penalty back that it turned around. Did away
Well,
goals.
what speed have you got this on, Martin? Because this is I can see this is torture for Kieran.
Yeah, well, he's gonna have to live with it. We're gonna do these two games at this speed because otherwise we'll be finished in 2 minutes. That was a yellow card for Novotny there. Andreas had a question about away goals counting, and yes, they do. Away goals do count in the playoffs. So that's also something to be wary of. Jens Jeremy's with a yellow card there. There's been a few yellow cards. Obviously, Jeremy Blaney, as we pointed out prior to the match, is one of the strict referees in the league. He has got a fair number of red cards to his name, two actually, and averages 3 yellows per game as well. So we'll see how that. We'll see how that impacts the game tonight. Obviously, with two very defensive or relatively defensive lineups, that could be an issue if they're going at it or tackling each other.
They also offer an awful lot, Churchtown, do they? This doesn't seem to be the dominant game that we thought it was going to be.
No, I mean there is that. If you put out a relatively defensive performance, I say relatively defensive because people will from the home saves. If you look at your home save, that's half time gone. By the way, they're 1-0 for Midlothian. If you look at this Churchtown formation in your home save, you would say that's not particularly defensive. But for the Super League, this is a defensive formation, yeah. To keep 6 man in the defender DMC role, that is a pretty defensive formation. So you have two defensive formations up against each other. It can be a little bit difficult for either side, obviously, to break each other down just because of the quality of the players. So it's always going to be, I think, difficult to dominate when there is two defensive-ish side up against each other. Anyway, that was the first half. Let's see in terms of action. So Churchtown obviously had the better of the chances and the more of them, but unable to convert any of them. Let's have a look at the performance of the players. Fifey, what do you make of this? Lilian Thuram getting a 9, but it's really not working for the attacking players, and John Welsh has not really had the ball much either, has he? So it's a tricky start for them.
I think when you consider the tactic being played, the fact that Robin has only got a 6 and is doing virtually nothing is very worrying, especially when they've had more shots on target. He's having absolutely no impact on the game whatsoever.
Yeah, and Olisa Debe, Van Nistelrooy, they're on 7s and 6s as well, with not much going for them. I mean, and if you look at the fitness, it looks as if they're not really getting much of a workout either. All 94s, 95s, 96s. Well, what can we expect from Churchtown in the second half? More sleeker passing and more speed going up front, I think.
Are there any instructions at halftime for either team, or are we?
No. We're just going with what they are. There are no instructions for either side for halftime.
Well, we're looking for a spark from some individual, then, aren't we? I think because as a team performance, it does seem quite run of the mill.
Mm-hmm. And
sorry, I was just going to say it's interesting that Thuram's got a 9, yeah, and Davids has only got a 6. So clearly they're getting through the midfield far too easily.
Yeah, it does look as if it's all ending up at the feet of Turam. We can maybe see here who's doing all the work. So it's Kessman and Kuehl who so far are the main protagonists for Midlothian, but otherwise a poor performance from Midlothian as well. I mean, apart from results wise, obviously. I mean, Roberto Carlos is on a yellow with the 6, Novotny on a yellow with the 7, but quite a few sixes across the board for him. Um, Back as
And
well with the
rather
6.
as well, we've got Kesman taking the lead over Mapenza, which seems to have been those two all season, really, hasn't it? Seems to me to have been the main man out of the two of them most of the season. I know he's had injuries, Mapenza, but I think Kesman seems to have been Midlothian's top boy up front.
Yeah, he's been the main man for them, definitely. Yeah, I mean they're keeping it tight. I mean, what else can you say? They're not really, their strikers aren't touching the ball either, and they're not doing much with it. But they obviously have got the goal that separates the sides. If you look at the action zones, it has been mostly down the Midlothian end. So if Churchtown can get that breakthrough, then perhaps we can see a turnaround for them. But if they don't, it's going to be difficult. Um, Anyone, do we want to continue with the predictions, or let's just kick this one off actually and see what happens in the second half? Churchtown had the best of the first half, and if I remember rightly, then the Midlothian came under a lot of pressure in that Asta game in the second half. So it will. Oh, that's gone far too fast. So we'll see. That's a yellow card for Hoffland there. So that's 3 defenders all on yellow cards for Midlothian now. We'll see if that impacts the game later on. There's a couple of good chances there for Midlothian as well.
Should be two there.
We'll see if Van Nistelrooy can. Oh, and there was Robin with the rebound. Van Nistelrooy shot, and Robin picking up the rebound and equalising for Churchtown there. Perhaps deserved equaliser considering first half and the start to the second half. I would probably suggest.
One thing I noticed during the blog is there's a strong
Oh,
Italian
let's
contingent throughout the
just
Super League.
let's just see that Kessman with a goal from pretty much out of nowhere, bringing the score back bringing the lead back to Midlothian, 2-1 in front now. Sorry, Fifey, you were saying Italians?
Yeah, but what I was going to say was throughout the Super League there's a strong Italian contingent, but in this game there's quite a lot of Dutch players playing.
Yeah, it's interesting how I don't know if it's because people are interested in playing different leagues or have that kind of preference, but there does seems to be a bit of a split for which people prefer which players and from which sort of a country background they were originally from. All Australian
Oof.
now, of course.
Churchtown knocking on the door.
Definitely. And there's
Yeah,
the
we.
equalizer. There's Robin again. Oh,
Oh,
disallowed.
oh.
Oh, controversial decision. And there's another handball, and the yellow card was not given for that. And that's going to be a yellow card for Barry Ferguson instead. Maybe losing his temper a little bit in frustration here towards the end.
We
Yes,
said that the referee would get involved, didn't we?
yeah. I mean, and it is Jeremy Blaney who is one of the stricter and perhaps more outspoken referees in the league. It looks. Oh, it looks ominous every time Midlothian come forward. It's not that often, but it looks as if they're dangerous when they do. Could they get a third? That could be all important.
Oh,
Either
Ian's
way,
found a
goal.
task at the right time, hasn't he?
States that there was yellow cards reset for playoff. To answer your question, Andreas, no, they were not, as far as I can tell, because if you see Palmer's squad, you will see what I mean. Anyway, that's the end of that game. Churchtown continued to dominate, but they could only find the goal once. Midlothian with 2 goals from 4 shots on target. Another impressive away performance from Midlothian, who were without a single away win, and have really found a way to turn that around. So a solid victory for them. Let's have a look at Midlothian, their performance first. Who mentioned that Kessman was taken over from Mpenza in the?
Ian.
Well, I think he's been. I think he's been the main man all season up front, hasn't he? I mean, Back hasn't really pulled up any trees since he came in and took the captaincy. I think Kesman's been consistently good all year.
Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, that was his 15th of the season, so a solid performance from him. Rumor has it that he is leaving Midlothian at the end of the season, so it'll be interesting to see if he goes away with a winner's medal or what he takes with him on
Really?
his way out.
Surprises me
Where's
lack
he
of
going?
strike.
Sorry.
Where's he going?
That would be telling. I don't know if that's official.
Okay.
But yeah, I believe he is. But I mean, if you look at him, it's not as if he's had a shit season. I mean, he has had 10 goals in 19 games, 3 assists, and a 7.35 average. From the expectations that we have for him, Pensa, that's perhaps not the greatest, but it's not as if he's been like terrible or anything.
He's got Vieri coming in, is he? Ian, is that right? Is Vieri got a Midlothian?
Yeah, that's a swap. You worked it out. Yeah, so Vieri's coming in. I think he's swapping him for Kessman. I think just to get a bit of experience because he has a few younger players. But either way, we'll see. Roberto Carlos getting an assist. He's from Swindon, isn't he?
Yes, we did the trade in the mid-season window to bring in Montero and swapped Roberto Carlos.
And he's I mean, as he didn't for Swindon, didn't set the world alight at Swindon then, but he has had a relatively good start here, and he obviously got an assist. Headman getting a 10, obviously key performance from him in keeping the score very, very low. Let's have a look at the Churchtown and how they did. John Welsh, who we praised before the game, didn't really deliver up against Roberto Carlos. If he goes down the right, up against Roberto Carlos on the left, so failed to impress. Apart from that, there wasn't really that much. I mean, I guess a kind of solid performance, but should Khan get an 8 after letting 2 goals in on 4 shots rather?
I think he's just perhaps being at home, and he hasn't probably took the bull by the horns enough, has he? I think we spoke about Welsh at the start of the game. I mean, that's now nine games, no assists for someone with that arrow going so far forward. You'd expect a little bit more contribution, which is why I thought maybe a more offensive player could have played in that position. And ordinarily, you'd think, well, Churchtown fantastic away from home, but I mean, Midlothian got to where they are pretty much purely on home form, so it's going to be a difficult second game.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. Let's see the action stats. So a little bit more even in the second half, but still, solid victory for Midlothian there. Perhaps not certainly not what was predicted in the chat. There weren't many predictions, but I don't think anyone went for an away win here. As we mentioned, Churchtown are a very, very strong away side, and obviously all still to play for in the second leg. We'll have a look. Obviously, the players will get their packs out and see if there's any suspension or any of that coming up. Fifey, your last words on this game?
Yeah, it's just Churchtown as we know them didn't turn up, and I agree. I think it's almost because they didn't take the initiative. You know, they probably went too defensive for the home leg. If they'd stuck with their 3 up top formation maybe and give Midlothian more to think about, but the second leg's nicely poised, especially with those away goals.
Yeah, definitely. An interesting game coming up for them. Second game of the evening, Andreas, I don't know if this answers your question to whether yellow cards count. Yes, they do, and Panathinaikos have a lot of them, so so they probably should be careful. Let's have a look at this one. Oh, there we go. So next up, we've got Panathinaikos against Astor Athletic. I forgot to look at the. No, I did. We do have all the subs, Parma. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I forgot to check the past meetings, but I can tell you that obviously for those who don't remember or know, then Panathinaikos won both games early on the season, 2-0 at home and 2-1 away from home, I think it was. So they've had the better of Asta so far this season. Fifey, what do you make? Who do you want to start? I'll let you choose. Who do you wanna share your opinions on first, Panathinaikos or Asta Athletic?
Start with the home side. It's probably fairest.
Mm-hmm. And what do you make of Panathinaikos and their journey and Parma finally making the playoffs?
I think the story behind the club, it's great for them to have finally made it. I think when you consider that most people predicted them to finish where we did, it's clear sign of a job well done. When you consider who some of the starring players are, for example, Ebby Sand, who got in Team of the Year, Cannavaro, who's probably less surprisingly, but he's played at the back on his own all season. I think you can't argue with the job that's been done there. What's happened on the pitch for Panathinaikos has been very good this year.
Mm-hmm. and Astor Athletic, they've had a bit of a turnaround of their fortunes twice actually. It started out fantastic and then it went horrendous, and now it's pretty good again.
Yeah, I think Alf's done it's been an interesting season for Alf purely because, like you say, did he win something like the first 7 in a row, and he was looking like he was going to tear away in the league, and then he seemed to lose and draw so many games that he fell outside the playoffs, and then timed his run correctly to do a Stackington style playoff race.
Yeah, and he's definitely in it. Ian, your opinion on Panathinaikos, where they are the season and the squad as they line up tonight?
Oh, he's done a brilliant job, hasn't he? I think as he keeps banging on about, we all said it was a rubbish squad at the start of the season, and it's not a great squad, but he's done an absolutely fantastic job with them. I think any time he puts out this formation, which none of us could ever figure out how he got it to work, it's always done well for him. He went off the rails for 2 or 3 games, maybe 7 or 8 games ago, because I think he stopped playing this for a couple of games, and if he'd have stuck with this formation in those, he might have even been higher up the table than he is now. Yeah, cracking job.
Mm-hmm. And Bosco Balaban starting tonight in ahead of Trezeguet. Surprise for you, or do you think Balaban has earned it? He was the one who came out and praised his manager and said he was ecstatic about the turnaround and all that.
It's just a reward for a decent performance or two, isn't it? I think we all know that the main man up front in that side is playing alongside him. So as long as you've got Eb Sand there, you've got a chance at goals. You've got Nicky Franco behind. So I think out of that triangle, I think whoever plays on that left hand side is the third wheel. I don't think many people in the Super League who will be fighting over trying to sign Trezeguet. So
Mm.
it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ebisanda obviously one of the players still in the hunt for the top scorer award. Sorry,
And I think
Fifey.
unanimous in
Oh,
our team of the year as well is one that all three of us did agree on. So
yeah, super high average, 16 goals and 24. One of the few guys in with a decent shout at catching Rossini, who's obviously um, finished his season. Fifey, what do you make of Panathinaikos side? Who would you say is the key player in this side? Nedved, perhaps, or Cannavaro,
Well,
even?
I was gonna touch on what you two were saying about Ebby San there, and without wishing to heap the pressure on him, so to speak. When I was putting a few notes together for this, I noticed on the top goal scorer charts, I don't know if anyone ever looks at that when it's put in the blog, but at the top 14 goal scorers in the league, there's only 3 of them that are in the playoffs. Like the strikers for the teams at the top
Hmm.
haven't been doing it as such. It's only Ebby Sand, I think Van Nistelrooy's about 30, and Arnold Brugink
Hmm.
is in the middle somewhere. But no one else. You look at the teams at the top, you've got Rossini at Cannons, in the playoffs, you've got Morientes, Ardsley. Even Kleiber to us is about 5th in the list. A lot of the teams at the top don't have a goal scorer, which in one way is good because it means they share all their goals around their team,
Hmm.
but then they don't have that big game player you can depend on. So is Ebby Sand going to be the difference maker here?
It well, it could be. Let's have a look at the Astrath tactic, and there's perhaps a surprise here, perhaps a surprise in the formation that Alpha's gone with this evening.
it's gone back to the narrow. Yeah. Well, I mean, the has to get mixed results with going wide and going narrow, don't they? So I mean, it doesn't really tell us an awful lot, other than that he feels perhaps more comfortable as he gets into the business end of the season with this. I mean, Del Piero and Brugging, they make massive contributions from those positions. So this has a good look to it, really.
Hmm. Yeah, I was surprised when I saw it, but obviously it's probably Alf's I would say maybe favorite formation, or at least one. So maybe it's also a little bit of nostalgia in it that he kind of, I mean, it served him well in the playoffs last year, so maybe he's figured that it would be a good one to go with tonight as well. One of the talking points that maybe has gone a little bit under the radar is that there were some things about having 2 or 3 goalkeepers, and perhaps it was promised that people could pick up people from their third team and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, and Alf didn't have any backup keepers, so he's actually signed Pleticosa on the condition that he has to start on the bench. He couldn't be signed as a first choice keeper, so he's there because Lehman is obviously suspended after his issue last week and getting sent off there. Yeah, how's Håkan Mild starting? Well, he's very solid, and he was in the final last year for Stackington, so he can do a job. Yeah. Fifey, what do you make of Astor going back to their tried and tested?
I like it. As was said before, Del Piero and Brujink are going to be actually the main men in this formation. It's been well documented that our strikers perhaps haven't done the job, but the ones playing behind have. Emerson, I think most people agree, if he's at his best, is one of, if not the best central midfielders. He should really be up there with Barry Ferguson, but it's not quite happened for him this year.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And yeah, like you say, Hakan Mild is an Alf player, isn't it? But similar to, obviously we touched on Cafu being in Team of the Year earlier. I think Alf's got more good performances than lackluster from Zanetti and Placente. So, and that back two aren't bad either, are they? To be fair.
And the form that Materazzi's been in, obviously in the last few games, 8-9-9, 8-8, and he's four goals for the season, headers and penalties and everything. So yeah, it could be an interesting night. Anyway, we've got John Peacock in charge, who's a relatively unknown quantity in the league. He's had 3 games, dish out 9 yellows, and not done much else. They have been recent games though, so he is familiar with the current the way that the league's been played currently and the tempo. But will be interesting to see how he handles the big occasion. There's been a couple of predictions in the league. I'm not going to ask for the predictions in the studio. We're just going to kick it off and see how this one unfolds. Obviously, Panathinaikos, as mentioned, won the. Oh, and there's Nikiforenko. I couldn't even finish my introduction. His 10th goal of the season. Brilliant start for Panathinaikos here. They have obviously beaten Asta twice already this season, so it could be a long night for Asta if they're going to continue with this kind of form. I've seen chances for Sand as well already.
Seems a bit faster in this game, doesn't it? The commentary.
Yeah, I mean and I'm not sure how this works. This is the first time I've seen commentary on this speed in many, many, many years. So it's just to keep it a little bit more exciting. Instead of, it's a shame to miss things. We're in the playoffs. There's only 2 games. It will be a shame to miss something. It looks. Both sides have had chances, I think, but solid defense from Nesta and solid defense from Cannavaro is keeping it level.
Astra will win.
Alf must have been fearing the worst after that, but they seem to have got a little bit of a grip on the game, but still looks like maybe Panathinaikos are the favourites for this.
It's always terrible to go down to such an early goal, isn't it? I mean, obviously you've got 89 minutes to, or whatever, 88 minutes to get back in there, but you know, ooh, what's happening here? Just a yellow. You see, playing on the speed is brilliant, you know? There was at least a couple of seconds of excitement. Oh, and there's Ebisand. We spoke about him already. I think Jogatos with the cross from the left-hand side. He's been such a key player for Panathinaikos and in getting those wide areas to work. Salihamidzic, obviously, on the other flank, not bad either, but Jogatos really the player of the season for Panathinaikos, along with Sand, obviously. It's difficult to take it away from your top scorer. Yeah, they're struggling. Alf needs something before halftime. I think they're really struggling to defend the sides, to defend the wide areas.
Yeah, it was a bold move, wasn't it? The tactical change, because you could understand it if things weren't going his way, but he was getting some joy with that width, wasn't he? In the last few games of the season.
Yeah, 4 minutes of added time in the first half here. He's still got a chance to get back in there. I mean, Hasselbank has had a couple of chances, but as we touched on before, it's been difficult for the actual frontmen to score. Ooh, that was a big chance there. Difficult for the frontmen to score for Asta. A couple of good parries from Dida just before halftime as well. And it'll be interesting to see if Palmer, with the last kick of the first half, they can do something. Jagatas lined it up, a couple of free kicks, But
it'd be interesting to see how Parma's wide men have affected the game as well, because there's an awful lot of space down there for Georgiatos, isn't there? And the fella who I'm not going to pronounce down the other side.
Salihamidzic, yeah. Jagatas will be a 9, I think, at halftime. We're continuing to play lots of added time here. San moves in on goal, but challenged by Nesta. Strong central defender, Alessandro Nesta. I wonder where he'll end up next season.
Yeah, I wonder. As long as he keeps up that sort of form, he'll be welcome at the dark side.
He'll be partnering Rio Ferdinand in there. I wasn't entirely. No, it was an 8. Anyway, let's have a look at the stats. Actually, Astra have had the slightly better of the chances there. 6 shots, 5 of them on target, but a strong performance from Dida in the first half. 15 free kicks. I don't know how this happens, but anyway, let's have a look at the Panathinaikos performance. You can't really put a finger on anything here. That's as solid as a performance as you're likely to see all season, isn't it? Fifey, what do you make of the first half from Panathinaikos?
I mean, from what we were watching, they looked quite comfortable. The stats suggest that Astor were a lot more in it than perhaps we thought. Dida's clearly having a very good game, keeping the likes of Brujink and Hasselbank out. And we picked on the big game players and who's going to score the goals, and there was Sam doing what he's done all season.
And Jagatas with his 9th assist of the season, and look at that average as well. I mean, he's definitely been key as well. And Dida in ahead of Paul Robinson. So strong performance Panathinaikos. Nedved perhaps surprisingly not really running things as he occasionally does. He's had a couple of 8s and a bunch of goals recently, but we'll see if he has an impact in the second half. Let's have a look at the Astra Athletic. I mean, they've had the better of the chances, but look at the numbers, Ian. What do you make of Asta's first half performance overall? Disappointing, I think, is the only word that really springs to mind here.
Well, it is. I mean, you look at that performance and you wonder what pressure they put Dida under to make Dida have a 9. I mean, why does you keep having a 9 when he's not an awful lot to do? I think there's a few players that haven't really turned up there, and you hope it gets better in the second half for Alf, really.
Yeah, I would say that he would definitely need to convert one of those chances early on in the second half to get a bit of confidence back in the side.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Just considering obviously Ian's part of the Team of the Week, / Team of the Year panel as well, have we underlooked or overlooked, I should say, Georgatos by putting Dede in the team?
What, for Team of the Year?
Yeah.
Well, I think he was in my Team of the Year, wasn't he? But I think Dede got somebody else got in there instead of him. But Georgiatos was certainly in my Team of the Year, I think.
I think to be honest, I think it's a difficult position to put players in for, because I think Dede, Georgatos, and Giggs, who've all played that position, they've probably all had about 8-10 assists. They've probably all had about 8 average. They've probably all had like 2, 3, 4 goals. So I think for me it would be a toss up between the three. I can see you've included Giggs obviously and put him into midfield instead, but it would be a toss up with
you could probably
those
throw
3 guys.
To that as well, couldn't you? From Churchtown.
Yeah, he's done a good job as well. Who would have thought that left back would be the hottest contested position in Team of the Year?
So many good backs.
Yeah. Well, it's always a surprising new day in the Super League. Let's kick off the second half. I know that obviously the managers, both Alf and Joe, are watching patiently and hoping that their sides will do well in the second half. The speed is torture. Yeah, that's the point, Palmer. That's the point. Oh.
Slow it down again.
Yeah, I forgot it changes when you change the match. You've had 17 minutes for free there. So no early goal apologies for that. No early goals for Astor in the second half. Jamie Langfield with a save there.
It surprises me a little bit, unless obviously they weren't relevant. When you consider the 4 managers that we've seen tonight and how meticulous you consider they are, that none of them had any halftime instructions.
Yeah, I think it depends really on the managers. They aren't managers who would normally do that, so I don't think it's been something that they've really concerned themselves with all season. Occasionally, we get instructions for who to sub at halftime in case, or sorry, who to sub in case of injury, but they don't tend to change things at halftime sub wise. But again, the team at the bottom have halftime instructions, and so does the team at the top. So it doesn't really seem to make a big difference. Either way, we're kind of talking over the second half, but it doesn't really matter because actually nothing has happened apart from Jamie Langfield has done pretty well and had a couple of saves.
They've done well to turn this into a nothing half, to be fair.
Yeah, a bit of an anticlimax there. The second half. I mean, Astor didn't produce anything. Panathinaikos just held tight, and I think we'll see that. I mean, Jagata's getting man of the match. There was the 9 that I thought he was going to get the whole time, and Parma with another 2-0 home win against Astor, second time of the season that's been the result out of 2 for the games that those guys have played against each other. Yeah, not much to. I mean, we we spoke about it in at halftime. There's not really a lot to add in the second half, from my perspective anyway. If we look at the action zones, not really a lot happening down in Panathinaikos end, and the stats also reflect that. A shit ton of free kicks and not so many throw-ins, but lots of free kicks. Not a huge amount of yellow cards. Fifey.
Well, that's at 22 offsides for Astor. So I mean, they weren't able to get anything going because they were just permanently offside.
Well, if you have
You'd have Inzaghi up front.
you have two players up front and 2 players running up front, and there's 1 defender. And if Palmer plays with the offside trap, then it's always going to be. There's obviously high risk from him if he does. I can't remember, to be honest, but there's obviously high risk if he does. But it's quite obvious that is what's gonna cause it. I mean, if so, he's had 25 free kicks, but 22 of them are from offside. So yeah, that's an interesting one actually. Jamie Langfield, decent stand-in for Jens Lehmann. Fifey, what do you reckon? Who was goalkeeper of the year, by the way, in team of the year? Was that Lehmann?
Yes.
He was another unanimous one, I believe.
He's got competition here. Jamie Langfield getting a 9. Does that mean Langfield will start the reverse fixture?
I don't think so.
Me neither.
He may have got a 9, but he still conceded 2.
And early ones as well. I mean, that's a tricky one to get over confidence wise. We'll see if that has any impact. It seemed as if Astor's defense picked up a little bit in the second half, but I think it's considering what we've seen from Hooligans and what we've seen from Alf tonight. This has got to be. I mean, I know we've said it throughout the season and we've been proven wrong on occasion, but surely this half track thing is finished now with the 4 strikers and this kind of lump in front of goal and the arrows and these things that Hooligans have persisted with and Astor's not had any luck with as well this season. Or will it continue into next year? Ian, Fifey, either.
Well, continue to next year, I don't know, but continue to next week. I mean, Panathinaikos formation is one of those where you come up against and you think, what the hell am I going to do here? So I wouldn't like to say even what Astor's going to do next week, whether they go half track or whether they go wide, purely because of the opposition. As for next season, I don't know. I'll prove this season that he can tinker with it, which he didn't do last season. But yeah, I won't like to second guess him.
Mm-hmm. And Fifey, what do you make of it? The 2 AMCs and 2 strikers.
It's one of them things about how a game develops, isn't it? Because narrows are very popular generally. I think there's a lot of talk about how certain narrows are like guaranteed win formations and stuff like that. I mean, I don't understand it personally, but the one thing you would say, and it doesn't take a lot of intelligence, but if you're playing against someone who goes narrow, you go wide. But then you start matching people up so that everyone's playing wide, and then someone will throw in a narrow, and they won't be good to play it, and then all the narrow teams start winning again. So it's very difficult because if Alfred won this, we wouldn't be talking about half tracks and super narrows and how they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we do need to praise is the fact that one at the back is the one that consistently churns out the results.
Yeah, it's definitely done well. And just on the topic of those, let's say the narrows and the wides and the in-betweeners. So if we look at the top three sides in the league, Andreas pretty much always plays a relatively narrow formation. Ryan never plays a narrow formation, and Kieran mixes it up. So it's difficult to say that one is somehow better than the other. I think it's back to your point, Fifey. It's how you match it up against the people that you play against, and what players you've got to actually fulfill those roles in those formations as well. That's probably more important than the formations themselves, because as the top three in the league have proven, each formation can work really really well. I don't think that Ryan would have gotten the same results as he had he not had Dede and Sambrota on those two wing backs, for example. Then the wide formation might not have worked as well for him. When you can see someone like Dragons who've played wide all season, but they've had to use Giggs and Van der Meijde or someone like that. I mean, Giggs has done well, but someone who's gone with wider formation has not had the same success. So it's probably also down to the players that are available. So yeah.
I mean, if I can liken it to my squad just briefly, obviously, as you said, towards the back end, we picked up a little bit of form. But even going into that Valen game, and we did this sort of 5-man midfield, but with players out wide. Now, I would never have done that normally, but it was something different because what normally works wasn't working. And it gave me something to think about. And then we came up against Valen's very narrow, if you like, and we weren't outplayed. We were in the game, but the quality shone through. So it's the risk and reward of playing your game against matching up to someone else's.
Yeah. So funnily enough, after 26 rounds and the first stage of the playoffs, we've discovered that picking the right formation and having decent players makes a difference. It's amazing, isn't it, that what men can talk about for ages and ages. That's the end of the action for this evening. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow night if all the managers can get their squads in with the reverse of these fixtures, and the first leg of the match between Bolton and Ballon United as well. 9 p.m. tomorrow, hopefully, will be the time that will go with that. Ian, any last words from you on tonight's fixtures? How do you see this one going? Who's in the driving seat for the next round, or sorry, for the next leg? If we go Churchtown Midlothian first, who's got the upper hand here? I mean, Kieran is very strong away from home, but that's a 2-1 that's a 2-1 away. That's with the away goals counting as well. That's a tricky one.
I mean, obviously Churchtown they are a great away side, but then again, you can say Midlothian, like I said earlier, they've got to where they are this season because of their home form. So, I mean, Kieran is up against it. I think he needs a goal. He needs a couple of goals. So I think he's got to maybe push the boat out a little bit more than he has done tonight. I wouldn't put it past him, because sometimes when if Churchtown do score a goal, it's followed very quickly by another couple. So still all to play for. I mean, the interesting thing is we're talking about half-time changes, and obviously no half-time changes tonight. But then we are really only at half-time now anyway. So we'll see what the half-time changes are going to be before tomorrow night, won't we? Really.
Yeah, that's true. Fifey, what do you think about Churchtown and Midlothian? Who's got the upper hand in this one for you? Do you think Churchtown can come back from this one, or is it a big ask? I mean, 2-1 deficit to overcome, despite being, or even if they are a good away side.
This is the game out of the two that I'd be most excited to see in tomorrow, because I think it's set up nicely for what could be a proper Super League classic. As you said, you've got a team that are very good at home against a team that are very good away. The away team have to come out. They can't sit back like they did this time. It wouldn't surprise me if they went 3 up top and went for it, because at the end of the day, they've got one game now to save their season. They've got to throw everything they can at it. But that could play into Midlothian's hands, who are generally very good defensively, and
Yeah, they would.
will hit them on the break.
Definitely early on the season, they had a very, very strong Iron Brew Fortress up in Edinburgh. Their home games in the beginning of the season were pretty spectacular. The results that they achieved there. So that'll be very interesting to see. Panathinaikos, Astra. Ian, this is in Parma's hands now, isn't it? It's his to lose.
It is, and I think we know, we know how they're going to set up for the away leg because he knows what works. It would seem strange to change it now when it's a tried and tested and it gets the results all the time. I think it'd be interesting to see what Aston are going to do because they know that hasn't worked tonight. So maybe they go back to what has got them into the playoffs, which is this new sort of wide formation. I mean, the only thing that people haven't tried against Parramatta Nikos this season has been none up front. I mean, you always try. Maybe try and overload Cannavaro. There on his own with his arm in the air, but perhaps you play none up front and you get five AMCs running at him. Be interesting.
Well, it's maybe worth a try. Astor have to come up with something. Obviously, it's all or nothing for them, and a big one to overhaul. Fifey, what do you think, Astor? They're gonna have to do something special. Do you think no strikers is the way forward?
Well, as we've said, their issue has been their frontmen scoring, so it's probably not a bad shout for them.
Yeah, just leave them out and put some more attacking midfielders on. Yeah, maybe it's a good point.
I can see that Alf's been particularly critical of Emerson, which is possible. It's fair on reflection of the game, but the one thing you can say is Alf is a real student of this. He will be for the next 12 hours. He will be researching every inch of that game to then pick what he thinks is the right team to try and turn it down. But I think you're right. I think this is Palmer's to lose now, and it would take a monumental collapse not for them not to qualify.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I think Ebisand has more goals by himself than Smith, Nicolau, Hasselbank, Sonny Anderson. Does he have another striker? I can't remember, but definitely he's got more goals by himself than those four put together. So that'll be a tricky one for Alf to overcome. Palmer wants to see the left backs. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd like to see this. Yeah,
we all want to see the left backs. Okay, well we'll just do average rating. We can filter on
great
defenders.
left back debate.
The great left back debate. Jagatus is way out in front with 813. Oh, it's because Dead is a midfielder, isn't he? So he's at an 8 average, 24.43. That's Dede. And then if we look at the genuine defenders, then we've got Coco, 17.24, 788, and Jagatus is 24.39. So with the highest average. So as a left back, then he would definitely be the one who stands out. But we do have a bit of a wild card. Where is he? Is he an attacker? Or is he just not in here? Where did he go?
Giggs.
Oh, there he is. I missed him. But then we've got Giggs with the 12 assists. I mean, he's got a lower average, but he's played in a side that's struggled a little bit more than the other sides where the left backs come from, and he's got 12 assists, so that's also something to consider. But Jagatas definitely, I mean, on this for me, left back of the season. But it's also about his contribution.
It's interesting what you say there about Giggs being in a perceived struggling squad because, as I mentioned, one of the difficult choices was whether Morientes got in the squad or not as one of the league's top goal scorers. One of the arguments made, whether it was Morientes or Sand, for example, was that Sand had Ferenco supplying him, whereas Morientes only had Riquelme.
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously look at it that way, but I think that one of the things that we can point out, I mean, for the season is the amount of goals. I mean, we'll save this for an actual full review show that'll come up at some point. But one of the things that's very interesting, I think, is the goals scored. If you look at it from the from the top four are within a goal of each other. 53, 54, 54, 53. Then we've got a little bit of a gap down here, and then we've got a bit sort of like randomness going on down here. But yeah, this is almost the same amount, identical amount of goals scored at the top of the league. So that's something that obviously it's the goals against that are kind of making the difference here. Midlothian being the prime example of that, getting that playoff spot on goal difference, despite scoring less goals than Chudley Cannons. But
interesting that Palmer has conceded more goals than everyone else in the playoffs. Is that going to be his Achilles heel? I mean, we've all been saying how good they are defensively, but suggestion is they're not as good as their rivals.
Yeah, I think that's down to individual games, to be honest. I mean, you can see here clean sheet, 2 and 4, clean sheet, and then he's conceded a few. Then he's had a couple of big ones there as well. But I think he genuinely concedes like CM0102 unless he's in like a kind of a stream of crappy results. But I think generally it's worked out well with one at the back. There was that Churchtown game obviously recently where he conceded a bunch. But yeah, it's a fair point obviously made that he has conceded more than some of his competitors, and definitely more than the rest of the top six teams, just on Midlothian's case. I think we'll save any other interesting observations and conversations for the actual review show of the season, because I need to go and prepare the packs for tomorrow, obviously, for the fixtures that we've got coming up. So thank you very much, Fifey and Ian, for your contributions this evening. Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come on.
Always welcome, and thanks to everyone for watching. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you again same time tomorrow night. Have a good evening, guys.